We'd like to welcome each and every individual to Voices of Integrity podcast for the PB Church. And this is Easter Sunday, so you're going to have a amazing, sermon message, just like touching, and like you'll be so glad to go ahead and that you're a Christian and it's a day of celebration and everything else. No, this is the PB Church, and so you're probably going to walk away from this saying, man, am I glad I go to the other church. So again, PB Church doesn't tell you what you want to hear. It challenges you. And so, Jill, is there anything you want to accomplish before I dive into some of the things that have hit my brain this week?
No, I am interested in what hit your brain.
So this is fascinating this week because I had a thought actually just yesterday. And do you know what Christians think heaven? You know how this year is, the year of growth
Right?
for me. And one of those sub points is not caring about anything.
Okay.
Did you know that or not?
I I did not know that in particular, but
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah. So in 2020, a year, I'll never forget June 17th when Jonathan died. 2020 was the year of caring for me.
Okay.
And so I think it was before Jonathan died, I was talking to Tom Kuntz and I said, yeah, this year of caring stuff, I don't know. I said, I think I'm going to do a year of not caring.
Okay.
And so yesterday, somebody asked me, they said, so I think I had told them that they were also participating in the year of not caring, but they didn't realize it.
Okay. It wasn't intentional.
No, it's just who they are.
Okay.
And so how do you think that was taken by that person?
Probably not very well.
Actually, I thought it was taken very well.
Okay.
Yeah, I was a little surprised. I was a little shocked. I was like, wow. And this person went ahead and said, well, you think I don't care? And it's like, yeah. And it's like, and so you don't care, but there's a difference between you and I. So, and I said, oh yeah, absolutely. And they're like, so you not caring is you growing, but me not caring is me not growing. Like we're both doing the same thing. We're both not caring. Okay, you're saying this. I'm not sure if they were really buying into it. Rosanna, you were there kind of in an out of body, experience. Do you think the person was saying that? Do you think the person was saying that, like, oh, you can jump in at any time because you were in an out of body experience, kind of right there participating, and so you can relate to this. So it was a fascinating conversation, and so they're like, how is it that you're not caring is growing and me not caring is not growing? And I said, well, you've been like that, for I don't know, 42 years or something like that. And so um, me, like this is the first year that you know that I haven't cared. So me not caring is growing. You not caring is you just being the same as you always were.
Uh-huh. It's
So
because you're changing.
because I'm changing, and that person wasn't.
Right.
That person just they didn't care. And what's fascinating is John Nicholson. Remember John?
I
I don't.
do.
So he was similar personality as Rosanna, coincidentally, obviously, because I'm not going to pick on any personality on Easter today. Obviously, we don't want to do that. We want to make this all just a beautiful day. And so he went ahead and he came to our church. He attended our church, and he had a wife and three daughters, and he was a similar personality, very amiable, very nice. And after I don't know 3 months of working with us, he says, Mark, it's really strange. People at the church don't know you. I said, okay. I don't know what that means. And he says, people at the church don't think you care. He says, you're one of the most caring people I've ever met in my life. I'm like, okay. Like, okay, yeah. And he said, what's strange is they think you don't care and you really, really do. They think I care and I really, really don't. Which I thought was, like, okay, that's it. Like self-awareness. It's really cool. And he went on to try to be a chaplain and then became a pastor of a church. And he didn't care. Now, for all you pastors, bishops, ministers, all you spiritual leaders out there, I'm not saying that's one of the requirements of being a pastor or anything, not caring. I'm just saying it's an interesting thought, right? Like that's what the PB church is all about, is to have questions where you don't go ahead and feel attacked, or, like if you go to your church and you go ahead and say to your pastor, they don't do this, by the way. But if you go to the church and say, it was weird because I went to the PB church this morning, it's 30 minutes, Oh, and when we say it's 30 minutes, it's 30 minutes. We work to start right on time, end right on time. Anything beyond 30 minutes is a gift from you to me to you, and us to one another. So that's what it is. You're done. You don't have, all the other stuff. And so, um, so that the thought in talking to this person yesterday, I realized, Jill and Rosanna, that Christians teach that heaven, when you go to heaven, you're going to not care about anything.
Okay.
So essentially, this year of, sub year of me not caring, like
So you think you think you're replicating heaven?
yeah, right. I'm in heaven. I don't care. Like, I don't care. Don't, people going to help, don't care. Like, don't care. Like, children die, don't care. Things happen, don't care. Don't care about anything. It's like I'm in heaven. Like yesterday, or no, Friday at pickleball, I was talking to a guy. Asked me, he says, "How are you doing?" Like he hasn't learned, has he yet, Jill?
Mm-mm.
Yep, shouldn't have asked that question. I said, "Well, it depends how I look at things." He says, "What do you mean?" I said, "It depends how you look at things." He says, "That doesn't make any sense." I said, "Well, if I look at it from one perspective, like I'm, on heaven on earth, 99% of the world's population would die to have my worst day." Like if somebody says, "What's your worst day?" I'd say there's two of them. And so, one when I was 19 and, one when I was 57. And so those would be two worst days. And even in those days, I'm guessing 99% of the world's population would love to have my worst day. So if I look at things from one perspective, I mean, it's beautiful. Like I am so blessed. It's so amazing. If I look at it from another perspective, it sucks. My life really sucks. He looks at me. He's like, "You're just weird." I'm like, "Right." Then we start talking more, and he's like, "Yeah, that's way above." So then he tells this other woman, like, I don't know what's he thinking. What is he thinking? He tells this other woman, "Hey, ask Mark how he's doing today." Like, really? So she goes and comes up and she said, "Mark, Pat told me to ask you how you're doing." I'm like, "Really? Really, dude?" So I do the same thing. I said, "Well, it depends on how I look at things." She's like, "That's not true." I always love that. And she's definitely a devout Christian. And so she's definitely a devout Christian. And so she goes ahead and says, "Well, that's not true. It's either good or bad." I'm like, "No, there's a spectrum and it depends on your perspective." Then I explained it. She says, "I've never thought of it that way, ever." She says, "That's interesting." Like, and so I say things like Tom Coons, he says things to inflame people. Like when he said to the president of Easter Seals, "I want you to teach me this next year how to exploit your children." Like in Easter Seals. And then he waits 3 seconds. I just wait too long. Then he says, what I mean by that. So he says something to inflame people. Then he says, well, what I mean by that is this. And then he explains it. And so I just wait too long. I wait more than 3 seconds. Um, so yeah, heaven is, Christians teach heaven is you just don't care. You don't care about anything. And you're not going to grow in heaven, right? Because there's no tears. So you don't care. Obviously, you don't care about anything because there's no tears, right? And there's no work, and there's no pain. There's no nothing. Essentially, you're a zombie. like, like, like you're a zombie. Like, it's just, and so like Christians don't think about that. It's like, really? My uncle, he did. He went ahead and stopped by our house once in his whole life. Like he lived in Topeka, Kansas, and he came to the suburbs of Chicago. He's sitting at our table. I'll never forget this. Never forget it. It's fascinating. And he's like, Mark, he's a devout Christian. He says, Mark, he said, I think I've been looking at heaven all wrong these years. I said, really? Why is that? He says, I don't know, just sitting at Jesus' feet the rest of eternity doesn't seem like heaven to me. I'm like, yeah, I copy that. Like, but for some personalities, it is. Like just sitting there all of eternity. Just sit there and just worship. And again, if that's what God created them to do. Like when my dad went ahead and died, like I wasn't sure if he was going to heaven or not. Did I say something to him? I didn't. And he was a pastor, a Baptist pastor. Because I'm like, you know what? He's not going to go ahead and he's not going to listen. He's not going to do anything. So I didn't say anything to him. And so when he died, I don't know, a week or so, a couple of weeks after, I don't know if you know Joe Reed, Jill.
No.
I think he might have been an angel. I don't know. So he came to Coffee Connection like 3 weeks. So you were there when he was there, but he came out of nowhere and then he disappeared out of nowhere. Like they talk about in the Bible, angels unaware. So he's like, Mark, like the first time he came, he didn't know me from anybody. First time he came, he said, Mark, you're a seer. I'm like, what's a seer? He says, you can see things in the past people can't. You see things in the present people can't. You see things in the future people can't. I'm like, that's pretty cool. But what do most people call seers? Mentally ill people. like, like I told this lady, she's just laughing and she doesn't know what to make of me. She doesn't know how to process me. And she goes and says, I said, you've heard of, high functioning alcoholics, right? And she's like,
Yeah.
yeah. I said, did you know that I might be the highest functioning mentally ill person on the planet of the 8 billion people? She just looked at me like, I don't know. So if you see things other people don't see, you got to put you in an institution because obviously other people, you can't have like Tom, and sometimes we use language that you don't use in the church. So Tom said masses are asses. It's like the masses. And so people, I don't know why people don't think. And so he said, you're a seer. And then the next week he goes ahead and he says, you're a delta. And I said, what's a delta? I mean, transparency, that there was a little ego there with me. So I didn't want to look like an idiot. So I said, what's a delta mean to you? I didn't know what a delta meant. Like there's delta forces, but I don't know. He says, Mark, I could drop you anywhere in the world and everything around you would change. I said, huh, that's interesting. Okay. And then next week, my dad had died, and I don't know, I was sitting in my chair and at my office, and out of nowhere, I just thought, I wonder what my dad's doing today. And I mean, it's a thought. It's like, I don't know. Like that was weird. Like he died a couple of weeks before. I'm like, I wonder what dad's doing right now. I'm like, that's strange. So I bring it to Joe. I don't know. Joe Reed, the angel. I don't know. I mean, he came through, then he was gone. Don't. Anyways, I go and bring it to Joe, and I say, hey, Joe. I said, yeah, I had this weird thought. He said, what is it? I said, like my dad died a couple of weeks ago. He said, yeah, I'm sorry for your loss and everything that Christians do is anyways. And And I said, yeah, I had this thought, like, I wonder what he's doing today. And he said, he didn't even pause. Like, he didn't even pause. It was reflex. He said, what he was designed to do. And I said, well, that really frustrates me. So I'm like, I'm confused. Like, I have this thought. I don't know what to do with the thought. Like, my dad died. Wonder what he's doing. Where did that thought come from? Why did I go ahead and wonder what he's doing today? And I tell Joe, and then Joe says, well, what he was designed to do. And then Joe says, and then I say, I'm frustrated with that, really frustrated. He says, why? I said, why do you have to die to do what you're supposed to do? It doesn't make any sense to me. He said, Mark, he said this. He said, Mark, have you ever thought that you might be the only person in the whole world that's living like that knows what you're supposed to do and you're living your design? I'm like, no, I've never thought that thought. That's a goofy thought to me. It doesn't seem to make any sense to me. Like, it doesn't seem to make any sense. I don't understand that. Like, there's 8 billion people in the world. There must be somebody else out there that's living how they were designed to live. But Joe, I don't know if he's an angel or not. Baptists don't really believe in that anymore, so therefore it must be true. If the Baptists don't believe it, must not be true. Because they're really smart. Nothing against you Baptist pastors. I'm just saying it's just strange. And so, so yesterday I had a thought that I hadn't had a thought in 62 years. Never had the thought before that when you go, Baptists are teaching that when you die and go to heaven, you're going to be a zombie. Like, you are. You're not going to cry. You're not going to go ahead and have any feelings. You're not going to be sad. You're not going to go ahead and have to work. Everything's going to be happy. How do you grow if you don't, like, it's just, I don't know, like, all things are possible. It's just, I don't know, like, you get all the benefits and it's like, so, like, what do I do with that thought? Obviously, I can't share that thought in a traditional church. I can't share that thought with traditional pastors or bishops or ministers. I can't do that. Like, you can't ask those kind of questions. Like, it seems a little weird.
Okay, I'm going to ask you a question that's going to be, this is something that what you just brought up about the growth that just hit my brain.
Yeah.
Okay, if there's if you're kind of like a zombie in heaven, do you think that that's where reincarnation has that ideas of reincarnation? So people come back and are reincarnated so that they can grow into they have more growth and then
See, Jill and I didn't go ahead and conspire. We didn't say this stuff. Like, when I say you can ask any question you want in the PB church, you can. Like, you can. So, just for all you, like, it's funny on how people who are Baptists say, Mark, they think I've lost the faith. So, personally, I don't believe in reincarnation. But, like, what's the evidence of that? I mean, some people, they're dumb as a squirrel. Like, I don't know. It's like if there was reincarnation, they wouldn't be a human being right now. They'd be a bug or a squirrel or something else. So, no, it's a serious question. And so, um,
I don't think you're going to be up in heaven or wherever heaven happens to be just
this is
floating
what
around
this
like a zombie.
Right. This is what my uncle said. So I'll finish the story. So he says, yeah, I don't think I'm going to be sitting in at Jesus' feet like all of eternity. That doesn't sound like heaven to me. I'm like, okay. And a good, good Baptist, good Christian, solid guy. I said, what do you think you're going to do? He's like, I don't know. I think I'm going to be creating worlds. Like, I'm going to be creating worlds. I'm going to be doing something productive. I'm going to be doing something exciting. I'm going to be creating worlds, managing worlds. I don't know, something. I'm like, dang. And this is like 20 years ago. Like, in one of the podcasts this week, somebody's going to ask me, Mark, how do you have the memory at 62 that you do? Like, how do you remember back when you were 3 years old, 5 years old, 7 years old, 15 years old, 19 years old? How do you remember when you were 20 and 30 and 40? Like, how do you remember? You have all of these crazy insane memories of these life-changing, like when I was like my mom and dad when they're both alive. So this would have been over 10 years ago. And we're at the celebration where 50 years that they started the church or something like that. So I was sitting there with Richard Dix, and I'm not good with names. I'm just not. I'm not good with names. And I wonder, like, how do I remember certain names? Anyways, he and I are sitting across. He's a good friend of my dad. He's a pastor. And I said, I've been struggling with something, you know, for a while now. And I've struggled with it for, I don't know, over 20 years. Like, like the passage in the Bible where it says, work out your salvation. What does that mean? I'm pretty confident, like it's Easter Sunday, right? And so I'm pretty confident it's not doing good works. It makes no sense. Like, why would Jesus have died on the cross if we could have worked our way to heaven? It makes no sense. It's just, to me, it just makes no sense. Like, obviously, he died for a reason. So, pretty sure it's not, and it talks about all of our works are filthy rags. And Baptists like to do that, but it seems like they don't internalize it. And maybe in another podcast we'll go ahead and talk about internalization. It's taking it to heart. And so it's like, so I was talking to Richard Dix and I said, it says work out your salvation. What does that mean? And then I said, there were a group of people that went ahead and stood before God and they said, hey, we went ahead and preached in your name and we did miracles and we cast out demons. I'm like, dang, that's even better than a Baptist. Like, Baptists don't do miracles and they don't cast out demons. And God said, depart from me, I never knew you. So most Christians, Baptists, they teach eternal security, which I believe in ish. Most everything's ish. And so it's like, I mean, when you really get down into it, it's like, well, Baptists don't talk about this. What I think working out one's salvation is you work. It's mental. It's emotion. It's what does this scripture mean to me? Like, am I applying it? People go to church and they walk away. It never changes them. Like, they don't. They're just like God here on earth. They're the same yesterday, today, and forever. Once I said that to a family member, I don't know if she laughed or if she got mad that time. I'm not sure. Rosanna, what would you like to accomplish in this Easter Sunday?
This has been an interesting conversation. I'm not even talking. Wow.
Obviously,
Yeah.
I'm not going to say anything. Like, isn't it like
So, David,
I'm not gonna ask
I
that
made it
question? Like, isn't
interesting
it
by not
interesting
talking.
conversation because you're not talking? I'm not gonna ask that question. Like, every question you can ask any question you want in the PB church, but not that question. You can't ask that question. Go ahead.
Gotcha. Okay, that makes sense. I see. Um, you know, it did get me some thinking about the growing and how, when you're in heaven, you're not going to go ahead and have tears and you're not going to be sad. Well, how do you grow if you don't have tears and you're not sad about things that you could have done better at or something, or I guess you won't have loss because you're in
Well,
heaven.
again, this is what the Baptists teach.
Yeah.
So just because the Baptists teach it, there's a joke in the Baptist. They laugh at themselves, self-deprecating humor. They'll go and say, somebody died, went to heaven. St. Peter's walking them along and he says, shh, shh. Why is that? Because there's Baptists in that room in heaven and they think they're the only one in heaven. It's like, oh, copy that. And so again, I think it's healthy. Like when, when pastors, again, pastors and bishops, like listening to this, there are people in your congregation, maybe, that think like I do, maybe, but they're afraid of asking the questions. Or maybe they've just been taught don't ask the hard questions. And so, I think it's when pastors are really confident. Let me get this straight. You're really confident? Yeah. And you're really confident. Yeah, that you understand God. Yeah. Like an infinite creator. Yeah. Like infinite. Yeah. And you understand God. Yeah. Yeah, this is solid. And you're not and you're humble. Yeah. Uh-huh. Copy that. Like, okay. Yeah. Yeah. Like, I can see the humility just oozing from like and what's fascinating is how, like, if you're a pastor, bishop, you're invited to come on to PB Church. And it's not a threat to your church because the PB Church, the PB Church doesn't say don't go to your church, don't go to your regular church. It doesn't say, it's not competing. It's not saying, hey, we want to grow the membership. It's not that. And the PB Church will never ask you for money. Never. Like, never, not once. If there's ever if there's ever a PB church that asks for money, it's an imposter. Don't give them money. Like, don't. Just don't. Do not give them money. So, anyways, if you're a pastor, bishop, and you're like Nicodemus, one of religious leaders that goes to Jesus in the night because he doesn't want to be seen, that's good. You can listen to the PB church. Like and you can participate live, and you don't have to do video, and you don't have to put your name, and you don't have to even, you can just sit in and you can ask questions, you can dialogue. It's fascinating to me how confident pastors are when they're in the pulpit, when they have control in the church, and how I can't tell you how many people have said, I said, I know hundreds, if not thousands of pastors, and not one of them will do a podcast with me. Not one. And I get it. And they're like, well, my pastor would. I'm like, uh-huh. 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 Why? Because they're terrified. Their pastors are terrified. They have fear. They don't have faith. Like, you ask your pastor, would you be willing to do a podcast? And what first thing they're going to say? Like, they might say no. They might say, they might go ahead, or they're going to say, who is it? What's it with? What are we talking about? Can you have enough faith to go on to a podcast for 30 minutes? Is your God big enough and are you confident enough to go on a podcast for 30 minutes? They aren't. They have to know, like, exactly who's going to be on, where's it going, what questions. It's like, that's an example of faith. Are you kidding? Nope. That's what it is. Tim, what would you like to accomplish today?
I have a question. Or can you hear me?
We can.
Okay. Why I didn't get the first part of the podcast or
Oh,
when you guys
see,
started, but
in regular church, you can come late. It's no big deal. But in this church, in PB church, I don't know, let your yay be yay, your nay, nay, that kind of stuff coming late. It's like, if you're going to, so you can listen to it, because maybe the first part, it's like, oh, there's probably women are like, oh, you're kind of mean.
okay, Mark. So are we? It seems we're equating tears with growth. Can you
No, not
explain that to me?
necessarily. Well, tears can be all kinds of tears, right? I mean,
Yeah.
where do you get
Well,
most of your growth, Tim?
my question is why are there tears?
Okay, no. The question is, where do you get growth from?
Change in action?
And what causes change often?
I don't know. Is it heartbreak?
Well, that's one of it, right? And so if you go ahead, here's a Sunday school exercise, good Baptist, this Sunday school. Okay, so here's this. So take a piece of paper, roll it up. You guys see it? All right. Then go ahead and put it on your desk. And what do? You have, it's still rolled up. How do you get that paper flat?
Apply force?
So you could apply force, but we do that, but it's still not.
You have to iron it with something hot.
Something hot. So something hot could go ahead and flatten it. You could roll it the opposite direction. So you could roll it this way. If you rolled it this way, then it would go ahead and kind of flatten out, right? So you could apply weight to it. force, you could have heat, you could have water. There's a lot of things. So it seems like the growth in our life often comes through pain. So tears, I think, are a result of something. They're a reflection. They're a reflection of something. So it's
So,
not.
and because
Go ahead.
most of us are bent up like a piece of paper, it takes tears to it hurts to get straightened out again. Is that why?
Um, let's say yes. It seems like our greatest growth comes from pain. Like this same lady at pickleball. Like I said, when you go ahead and talk to Christians and they say, how's your life? How you doing? And they're like, I'm living the dream and stuff like that. And it's like, okay, there's not a judgment, but there's observations. But when you observe things about people, and again, anything beyond a half an hour is a gift from you to me to you. So if you need to just take off, take off. We might go, sometimes we go a little bit longer. And so, in looking at, in looking at it, it's like the fighting becomes the most fiercest when you're closest to the enemy camp. It just is. It's how
Yeah.
war works. like like nobody's going to come and take something if you don't have something to be taken. So Christians who don't have tremendous adversity in their life, maybe God's blessing them. Not saying he's not. I'm just saying that maybe maybe the devil is like, leave that Christian alone because they're not doing any damage. They're not a threat to my kingdom. Like, it doesn't matter. Like, it doesn't matter. Leave that person alone. Let them make money. Let them have a good marriage and a good family and a good going to church and all of these things. Let them do all of those things because you know what? They're not a threat to the enemy. She's like, I've never thought of that before. I'm like, right? In the PB church, there's a lot of stuff. So, I mean, I don't know. It seems like that pain produces a lot of growth. And so if there's no pain in heaven, and I'm not saying there is, like, yeah.
Well, the
All
Bible
right.
just says after the last judgment, all tears will be wiped away. Like, where do those tears come from? It's obviously from people in heaven after the final judgment.
So
All those tears are wiped away.
one of the things Tim would make a good pastor, analytic and amiables. It's why men hate going to church. And so most pastors, it seems like, are going to be analytic, amiable personalities. So it's fascinating. It would be interesting. I threw out the other day, anybody interested in going and doing a deep dive into the Greek and Hebrew? That's really cool when you go into the Greek and Hebrew and really find it out. So that's interesting because I haven't done a deep dive in the original language and look at context and look at the whole scripture about the tears. But what Tim just said, that resonates. And I'm like, so it says all tears are going to be washed away. That's past present. That's past tense. I've never heard this in a sermon because, like when you ask the hard questions and other stuff. So that's really cool what Tim said. So if anybody wanted to study that, and so it's saying all the past tears, like you're going to be healed. It doesn't say you're not going to have any more tears. Now, again, I haven't researched the original. Like the English translation, it was interesting. Like Alvin Miller, he got me in trouble, owner of the Mercantile. Fascinating story. So we're there. We go every Thursday afternoon. And my 8-year-old granddaughter is going along with us now. I don't know. She's just like, Grandpa, I'd like to go with you. I'm like, okay. So she's been going a few months. And so last Thursday, not this one, but the week ago, we were there and Alvin said, we talk about all kinds of stuff. And most of the time she has her head, she's 8, not very talkative. She just sits there. She doesn't say anything, just sits there. And I don't know what she's picking up, what she's not. And Alvin says, the Bible isn't true. are all true or something like that. And I didn't know what to do. I'm like, so I didn't challenge. I was like, really? Anyways, drop her off at home, and I get a call from her mom, and she says, Dad. I'm like, yeah. She says, I need to straighten something out. I'm like, okay. She says, JoJo said that you said the Bible wasn't true. And that doesn't sound like Grandpa. Um, like, did you say that? I'm like, no, honey, I did not. Elvin did, though, but I didn't challenge him on it because I didn't like, is this the right time to do it? Obviously, it would have been, but we did talk about it this last Thursday. And so, again, the Bible says foolish gesturing. So, how do you know what foolish gesturing is? So it talks about we shouldn't talk about things that are meaningless. So, a lot of times analytics get together and they talk about meaningless things. I don't know, their brain loves and they feel spiritual. Like, I know this really cool thing in the Bible. It's like, okay, how are you going to apply it? How is it going to make a difference in your life? And so, always come early, always stay late. That's where the real cool stuff happens. So you only get a part of, PB Church. You don't get the full part. If you come early and stay late, that's where the good stuff is. Hopefully, you all have a wonderful Easter, and God bless everyone. Thanks.